Hi everyone, and welcome to this review of the Empire mod on the Iron Workshop. I will start off by saying that throughout this review it is important to remember that this mod is actually a one-person project. And as someone who has worked on an extensive total conversion mod for Hearts of Iron 4 all by himself, I can't help but relate on how difficult that can be. With that said, I will not shy away from talking about the problematic aspects of the mod, which in my opinion has been released too early to the Steam Workshop, and could have used more polish to achieve its goal of truly immersing the player into the timeline the mod is set in. The mod is careful about not changing too much of the core Hearts of Iron 4 gameplay, so there are some new mechanics in the mod, but it doesn't set a goal for itself which is unachievable, like some other mods that I've recently reviewed, so I'm a bit more optimistic about the future of this mod. Enough lectures, let's get started by checking out the world map. The world map was changed to reflect the world as it was in 1699. Now, I'm no expert on the time period, but from what I could gather, things seem to be accurate enough. We have the French domination of North America before they abandoned the continent as a result of the 7-Year War. The Mughal Empire rules over India. Sweden is a force to be reckoned with and holds vast territories in the Balkans and Germany. Great Britain is yet to be formed by the Acts of Union of 1707, and the English colonies in America are peaceful and loyal. For now, the map features new resources introduced in the mod. There is grain, which is essential to feed your armies, there are horses that are required for your cavalry, and there are also some resources that I am confused by. There are spices which are required to train and supply your troops, which seems a little odd, but okay. Gunpowder is also a requirement, although it is a bit odd to see gunpowder as a resource, along wood and horses, which, as far as I'm aware of, gunpowder doesn't grow on trees. It has to be made, but that can be ignored as a hybrid of resources and commodities, so no major issue here. A lot of states were reworked, and in some places the reworked states are great, while in others not so great. For example, India now has a lot of small states that European powers can set up shop in, which is good, but on the other hand, Southwest Africa is now a single huge state which you can colonize in one swoop if you're lucky enough. So the states seem to be a hit and miss. Large portions of the world are uninhabited, in European standards at least, and can be colonized. It seems the developer has chosen to give these territories to an invisible country, and that has its downsides but also upsides. One reason I can think of as to why the developer has gone with this approach is to save himself the thousands of errors the game makes sure to throw at you when a state doesn't have a proper owner. And any modders watching this video will know exactly what I mean. The downside to this method is that it gives every country an opinion of this unsettled land, so potentially you could also declare war on it and claim its territories by conquering. There are some solutions that the developer has put in place to make sure that doesn't happen, but I just figured I'd mention this unique approach to represent unclaimed territory. When it comes to graphics, I'm going to take a careful approach. The mod was released on the 5th of February 2021, and it is clear that creating alone so many graphics can be exhausting, so I won't mention missing graphics since I believe those will be added and fixed. That being said, there are other graphical issues that must be pointed out, but let's start with the good things. Most nations seem to have portraits for their leaders and their ideologies. Don't expect anything too spectacular here, since the images being used are what's available on the internet of the persons in question, but it must be said that it is clear that an effort was made to include portraits for each nation and also for their military leaders and not just country leaders. There is, however, one issue that must be mentioned, and honestly I'm still not sure how I feel about it. Many of the graphics in the mod are taken from Europa Universalis 4. This includes the graphics for buildings, political advisors, technologies, and some interface buttons. On the one hand, they serve their purpose, on the other they seem really out of place with the game they're placed in, and make it harder for you to immerse yourself in the mod. I find it difficult to criticize this choice due to the fact that the mod is a one-man project. In a perfect world, one person perhaps could be both an amazing graphic artist and a great coder, but in reality that is a balance that only few can achieve, since both require a lot of practice and learning, the first one perhaps even more than the latter. I hope that this is an aspect of the mod that will improve in the future, since right now if you played Europa Universalis 4, it really leaves you with a lot of weird feelings seeing all of those assets from that game in Hearts of Iron 4. I assume that due to time constraints, the mod is also missing two other elements that are essential for immersion into the time period. In terms of sprites, the mod does not feature any new sprites, so you will be fighting in 1699 with tanks, modern infantry, artillery and automatic weapons, which once again totally tanks the immersion, at least for me. Another noted absence are the focus graphics. Well, there are some original focus graphics, most of them are reused from the vanilla game. So if you like looking at beautiful and unique focus icons, you won't find them here. I want to point out again that this is probably due to the fact that this is a one-person project, and I've taken that into account, which is why I bother mentioning it over and over. But this being a review, I am obligated to mention these things. Some other minor graphical issues exist as well, like the text on research items not being visible properly due to having the same color as the background. You will also encounter some missing interface buttons, ship icons that aren't there, and other glitches, but these are minor things that can be easily corrected in future updates. So in conclusion, if you're expecting some kind of a graphical spectacle that will sweep you off your feet to the 18th century, this isn't the mod for you. But let's forget about the graphics. How is the gameplay? After all, that's what really matters in a mod like this. The mod intentionally doesn't add too many features to the base game to keep things simple and perhaps to have better performance. But the unique features that are added are either not user-friendly, unfinished, or just have a really shallow implementation. Estates. The first feature is the management of various estates in your country. A feature that was very clearly taken from Europa Universalis 4 and thrown into Hearts of Iron 4. The main interaction with this feature is through the Decisions tab, and you can go ahead and take these decisions from time to time, or you can just ignore it altogether. It doesn't really make much of a difference. I think this feature will require some deeper integration into the game. For example, estates may limit you to take certain focuses, do certain diplomatic actions, or give you missions that have timers, and if you fail them, you could lose their loyalty. Right now, this feature feels half-baked and not very interesting. Grain. Another significant change is the replacement of fuel by grain, which means that in order to feed your armies, you will need a proper supply of grain. This is a brilliant change in my opinion, but it is a shame that it isn't implemented properly. Many interfaces still reference to fuel instead of grain, and throughout my games I never had a shortage of grain, despite the fact that food security was still a problem during the period the mod is set in. So while it is a brilliant change to the fuel mechanic, a better integration of it could really change the way we play Hearts of Iron 4, and the developers should make full use of this change and make sure that it is fully and properly implemented into the mod. The mod features colonization, but the implementation of it is quite poor. First of all, when you click on a state that can be colonized, a small window will pop up. If you try to click it, it won't always be possible, and it won't tell you why it's not possible to colonize that territory. After a while, I figured out that the colonization of various territories is opened up by researching certain technologies in the tech tree. I don't understand why, as Russia, I have to research American colonization before I can finish the colonization of Asia. On top of that, it seems like there is a hidden formula that calculates the chance of a successful colonization. I haven't managed to find where is this colonization chance is shown, and it seems like it's nowhere to be found. So you can't really know if your colonization attempt will be successful or if you're just wasting your time. Besides these three features, the mod introduces new units into the game. As I said at the start of this review, these new units will be using Hearts of Iron 4 sprites, and I'm not sure why Cavalry are using the tank sprites, but that is a total immersion killer and can and should be changed as quickly as possible. The graphics for these units and their equipment is, well, it's okay. It's nothing breathtaking or spectacular, but it does the job. The tech tree is a mix of vanilla Hearthstone 4 and new stuff added in the mod. It doesn't have a lot of new text to research, so it is unclear why many countries have so many focuses that give them an additional research slot. You won't really need this research slot since you can finish most of your research with the slots you were given at the start of the game. Most of the new buildings have been carried over from EU4. Some of these are fine, but others seem to be obvious balance disasters, like the universities that can increase your research speed by 1%. So any country that can spam these and has a lot of states, China for example, could potentially reach insane amounts of research bonus. A bonus that you don't actually need since the tech tree is so small, so why actually bother with a building of this type? Performance. Since the mod does not introduce any major game-changing mechanics, performance is fine and I have not experienced any issues performance-wise while playing the mod. If your PC can run vanilla Hearthstone 4 properly, you should have no issues running this mod. Sound and music. I haven't encountered any changes to the sound in the game. Your cavalry units will go vroom when you select them, which is probably one of those things that should be changed when you set a mod in a whole different time period when engines did not exist yet. The mod introduces some new music, but overwrites the existing Hearthstone 4 soundtrack, which is a shame. Creating a dedicated music category for the mod or exporting the new music to its own unique sub-mod would probably be a better way to implement this. Conclusion. I hope it didn't come off as too critical during this review, but I stand by my conclusion that the mod arrived on the Steam Workshop too early and could have been polished much more before it became public. While the mod clearly states that it is in alpha stage, perhaps its current state is too early for a public release and is best suited for a public version on GitHub. The mod still needs a lot of work on its immersion factor that will make it believable enough that we are indeed playing a country in 1699. I would recommend to focus on 1 or 2 countries, really flesh them out until they shine, and set a standard for how other countries should be represented in the mod, and only then moving on to create content for other countries. Besides that, some of the minor immersion killing bugs with localization and sound should be fixed since they are very simple to fix, but when done properly can immensely help to shape the character of the mod and what makes it unique from other mods and the base game. I wish the developer of the mod good luck and hope to see future versions of this mod, which has potential and is no doubt a product of passion for modding. If you found this review helpful, please leave a like so that others can see it as well. Subscribe to the channel to be notified of new reviews when they're posted. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.